Hello, my name is Zach Gibbs, and I am a content developer within education services inside Juniper Networks. And today we will be discussing the Deploying GNFs with Junos Node Slicing Learning Byte. Alright, so you might ask yourself, what is Junos Node Slicing? Well, it's a way to take a single chassis, right now it's an MX chassis, and split it into multiple different chassis or devices. And what that does for us is that allows, the example on the slide, we have 4 different devices. Now we can take those 4 different devices and combine that functionality. For example, that first device is a BNG edge. Second device, it's an edge as well, BNG. Subscriber management type stuff. And then we have like a video edge and then provider edge. And what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to use Junos Node Slicing to collapse all that functionality into one MX chassis and still have everything separate. Still have the FPC, the actual interface is FPC separate. Allows us to upgrade, downgrade different sections of this router, slices of this router, completely separate of one another. And so there's a lot of functionality. And so with that, let's get into the actual example where we want to deploy 2 GNFs. Using JDM, that's Junos Device Manager, and GNF stands for Guest Network Function. It's the name for a Junos VM in this instance. And what we're going to do here is we're going to deploy 2 GNFs, and we're going to have users connected to each GNF. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to first need to configure the BSys. That's the base system, which is going to be an MX480 in this scenario. Then we're going to use the GNF, or then we're going to use JDM to deploy the GNFs, and we're going to have to do a few things with that to do that. And the thing to point out is the GNF image is already uploaded to JDM, so we don't need to upload that first. We'll just need to deploy the actual GNFs. And then we're going to assign GNF-A, FPC4 on the BSys, GNF-B, FPC5 on the BSys. And then we'll test communication between the GNFs and the connected hosts. So let's go ahead and jump into the CLI. All right, here is the CLI for JDM. And what we're going to do here is, first thing we need to do is we need to add the GNF image for the GNFs, or it'll basically deploy it but not start it up yet. So we're going to do request type personal network functions. Hit a question mark here. We're able to see some options. We want to select the add image option, and then we want to specify the image location. That's going to be under var JDM user USR, that is, and GNF images. And like I said earlier, it was the image we uploaded, or I uploaded earlier. And so that's going to deploy that new image, the new GNF1. And it's not going to be started yet because we still have to do a few different, configure a few different parameters. And once we configure those parameters, then we can actually start the GNF. And this will take about a minute or so. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording while this does its thing. All right, so that's done for GNF-A. Now let's go ahead and do that for GNF-B. Basically the same command with using, changing the name of the actual GNF. And again, that'll take a minute or so, so I'll go ahead and pause the video while that finishes. All right, so that's done, and I do want to show something real quick. I'm going to clone this session. This will take me to the server that I'm using. And here I do want to show the actual location. It's going to be under VM primary. We see there's GNF-A and B. All right, so in here we can see we have the .image file, the .img, and the .qcow2 file, or however you want to say that. And so that's where the VMs are actually placed. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. And here, or rather now, we need to actually configure the GNF parameters. And that's going to be done under virtual network functions. You can see in here there's currently nothing in there. And so we need to configure GNF-A. And the first thing we need to do, we can look at we use the question mark, we can see different things. I want to point out the different options. Base config, that allows you to set a configuration file that will be the base configuration. And that will help out in instances to where you want to set up the management IP address right away and not console in and things like that. This will give you like a kind of a sort of a zero-touch provisioning kind of feel to it, where you can actually have the image start up with a certain configuration, and so you can get started on it right away. This can help save you some problems. And then there's the chassis type. I want to point this out. Now, it shows the different chassis that are available. Now, notice in this one, this is a 17.4. There is actually a mistake in here, and I did verify this with the engineering team, that the MX240 is actually not supported for Junos Node Slicing. So keep that in mind. If you do see that, that's actually a mistake in the CLI. They plan on fixing that in future releases. But the other ones are very valid. The MX2010, 2020, MX480, and MX960. So that's great. That's perfect. That's what we want to see. We're actually just set the MX480 while we're here. And then some other options. Oops, let me take a question mark. Some other options. We have the ID, which is going to be the GNF ID. That can be 1 through 10. You can have up to 10 GNFs per MX chassis. And then we have the no auto start. Now this is important because you may not, as soon as we configure this and commit, it's going to automatically start the GNF unless we use that no auto start. Physical cores allows you to specify which physical cores of the server, because remember, these GNFs are running on an external server that we want to use. And then the resource template. Now this is important, the resource template. We have some different resources. This is what's going to use on the server. We have 2 core 16 gigs, 4 core 32 gigs, 6 core 48 gigs. Now the 48 gigs, the gig part references the amount of RAM. And I'll show you on the side here, in the description of, what it is, 8 core and 64 gigabytes of memory, stuff like that. And so with this, the server's kind of old, and but it works great for lab scenarios. I'm going to use the 2 core 16 gigs so I don't overwhelm it. And then we do have to set the ID. Whoops. We're going to set this to 1 for Gnfa. And that's great. And so let's configure Gnf-B. And we're going to set the ID to 2 chassis type. It's going to be the MX480 again. And then the resource template, again, we're going to set that to 2 core 16 gigabytes of memory. And that all looks good. However, I am going to set the no auto start. And the reason behind that, kind of alluded to this earlier, this server I'm using, the external server that runs Red Hat Enterprise Linux is, not the newest. And so, it's easier on the server if I start up 1 GNF at a time. And, the server that is recommended to run this is actually a lot more powerful, so just keep that in mind. Server like I'm using, which is very underpowered for the task, but it works great for a lab scenario just to test things out. That's why I'm using it in this manner. So we just take a look at the 2 GNFs. Everything looks good there. We've got the ID, we've got the chassis type, the resource template. We're saying no auto start. And this is a good way to show the no auto start feature. So as soon as we commit this, I'm just going to do a commit and quit. GNF A is going to start. And so we can do the show virtual network functions, hit enter, and we can get some information on what's currently happening. Okay, so this output shows exactly what I want it to show. This is what we're looking for. GNFA has an ID of 1. It's currently running. The liveliness is down right now, and that's just because it hasn't booted all the way. Once it's booted all the way up, that'll pop to, or change to up, and that's great. GNFB shows a state of shutdown because we did that no auto start. And liveliness obviously shows down. GNFB shows an ID of 2. And so, yeah, everything's looking good. And it's going to take a few minutes for that GNFA to start up. So I'm going to pause the video. And as soon as that's done starting up, I'll show you how to start up GNFB. All right, it's been a few minutes. Let's check that command again. And fantastic. We have the liveliness state of up, which is what we want to see. So now let's go ahead and start GNFB. And if I hit question mark here, we can see we have a couple different things. Restart, stop, start. We're going to use start here. Now, one thing I do want to point out is the all servers command. Now, note that right now with what we've been doing, we've only been deploying, we only deployed GNFA on server 0. And that's great for a lab, but in production scenario, you'll want to use the all servers command. That will allow the GNF to be started on both servers. So you'll end up having a master GNF and a backup GNF. But with this, we're just using one server, so that's fine. We're going to be able to demo how to deploy GNFs just as if you did with two servers, minus using that all servers command. Now you can actually specify a specific server slot as well. So 0 or 1. Totally up to what you need to do. So I'm going to click or type start here, if I could type it out all the way. Okay, so now it's started. Fantastic. So let's look at the show network virtualization. So show virtual network functions. There we go. And see how this looks. Okay, great. This is what we expect to see. GNF B shows running, but liveliness down. And that's acceptable. That's what we want to see. So while this is happening, let's go ahead and console into Gnfa and do some configuration there. So we can do the request virtual networks console gnf-a command. And here we're in the console. That's fantastic. We just like any other fresh Junos device, you type root with no password, it jumps you into the shell. Type CLI to get into the shell, and this is going to be like just pretty much any other Junos device as far as configuration goes. You're going to want to do a few things first, like set system root authentication. I'm going to set that. Oops, got to finish command all the way. And then, set system type, host name. I'm going to call this gnf-a. And from there, we can configure some interfaces. Nothing configured under there yet. Set the FXP0 interface and set that to, I think it's going to be 10.210. Actually, I'm just going to set a something private address. That'll be fine. We're not going to be testing this out anyhow. If I could type. Okay, I gotta hit address first. Oh, I'm having a hard day. Family INET address. Got my mind on other things. 10.1.1/24. Okay, that should work there. There we go. Now we have the FXP0 interface configured. Now that's going to be the management interface. And I'll show you where that's actually configured in JDM. Which interface to use on this external server for that. And so let's go ahead and configure. Before we do that, let's take a look at the actual interfaces. And we have no Gigi interfaces now. Why is that? And the reason behind that is because we haven't configured it on the BSys yet, the base system. And so we need to jump to the base system and actually configure that. So that's going to be under chassis, network slices. And that is guest network functions. Actually, going to just edit under there. Guest network functions. Set GNF. Now, this is going to want the ID, GNF slot number. So not the actual name of the GNF, the GNF ID. We go back here, we can see this. I'm currently not in JDM. You can do the control close bracket key combo to jump out of any sort of console access with JDM. You can do the show virtual network functions to actually see the GNF ID. And GNF-A is 1. So that's great. We can just do that, GNF-1. And then we want to set the FPC slot. So FPC, we're going to set that to 4. And that's all we really need for that. Now, there's other things you can configure, like a abstract fabric interface. And I have another Learning Byte that goes over just how to do that. So if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and check it out. So GNF2, that's ID of 2. Remember, that's GNFB is 2 as far as the ID goes. Then we're going to say FPCs just 5. We can specify multiple FPCs here, but we don't need to do that. And then we're going to commit that configuration. And one thing to point out here, my MX480 only has one routing engine. That's why getting that error there, because you do have to have a few things configured. And I do want to go over this. We go under chassis, and we need to have graceful switchover configured. We need to have network services enhanced IP. Now that's for an MX480 and MX960. the network services enhanced IP is necessary. And so, but with a graceful routing and switchover, and then if we do routing options, then we have also nonstop routing configured. That's necessary for Junos Node Slicing to get it to work, and so that's why I'm getting that error there. And, that's okay. For a lab setup, that's fine. For a production network, you definitely want to have that second RE. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back to the console for Gnfa. See, we're under interfaces currently. And so, let's check things out. GE star. Nothing quite yet. All right, so I ran the command again, and now we have Gigi interfaces showing up. Let me do the terse version of that. And what happens there is it does take a bit of time for when you assign an FPC. I believe that the FPC has to reboot, if I remember correctly. So it takes a little bit of time for it to show up in the GNF. And so by doing that later, then it took some time to show up. And if we would have done that before we deployed the GNF, then it would have shown up right away because it would have came up with the GNF. Well, maybe not right away, but it would have came up shortly after. And so that's great. That's what we want to see. And so with that, we can configure. If you can see, we have the Gigi 400 interface. That's the interface that points towards the user. So we're going to say set unit 0 fam. If I could type, set Gigi for unit 0 family INAT address 192.168.0.1/24, and that should configure the address for us. And you may also want to do things like set system services SSH, so you can SSH to that and whatnot. And let's commit that configuration. Okay, it generated some keys since we enabled SSH. That's great. That's perfect. This is what we want to see. So we look at the interface output. We can see that IP address is applied, and now we can ping that address. That's perfect. We can ping that user, so that user now can use Gnfa as as a default route or whatever other services we want to apply. That's perfect. And so that's what we want to see. That's great. And so let's go ahead and jump back. Remember, the control open or the control close bracket key combo gets you out of the console there. And let's have a look at the show virtual network functions. See if, great, GNFB is up, so we can jump into GNFB. And while I'm here, I do want to show you something. So earlier I mentioned that we configured that management interface, but what does that map to? We can look at the actual configuration. We can see that under the configuration we have something JDM management, and that's mapping to a certain interface. That's the JDM management interface, but the VNF management interface is the interface on the server that we're going to be using for for the GNFs. So that's what FXP0 will map to. So keep that in mind. And so with that, let's go ahead and console in to GNFB, and we'll configure that. It's basically going to be the same thing. Just jump in, set the host name, GNF-B, set the services SSH, root authentication, okay, so we have that. Got the basics. Let's go under interfaces. Set the IP address up on the management interface, and then we're going to set the Gigi 5/0/0. Remember, we specified or associated Gigi or FPC5 with this GNF. Set the IP address for that. That's great. And then we can just commit that. Okay. Gigi 500 has the correct IP address. That looks fantastic. We'll go ahead and ping, and we can access the host. I like to use detail to make sure the GNF isn't pinging its own interface. We can see it's pinging through the Gigi 500 interface. That's perfect. That's what we want to see. And so I do want to show one other quick thing. And so this will require me to jump out to the GNF. and a few other things. We'll do the show system CPU, and this will give you information on what the GNFs are doing. The CPUs that they're using, the CPU cores that is. We can see the free CPUs, the CPU cores that aren't being used. We can see the usage as well as the process ID and current state and things like that. That's great. And then another thing I do want to show is the, or not one, oops. And with the, if we actually specify the GNF by name, we can get some more information. We can see the internal IP address it's using. We can see the cores used, the memory used, the resource template, SM BIOS version. Now this is very, very important. I want to point this out because when JDM deploys a GNF, it uses the SymBIOS version to show or to determine which parameters and features the GNF can support. The SymBIOS version needs to match in that regards of what the JDM software version can support. I think it's the max versions. Yeah, okay, so the max version is currently version 1. This one supports version 1, so we're good there. And so in the future, as things go on, just keep that in mind that that SymBIOS version needs to match, or it needs to match in a way because JDM can support up to multiple versions, and the SymBIOS on the GNF can support multiple versions. So there can be some overlap there. It's not a one-to-one locked-in ratio. So just keep that in mind. That's very important. So that brings us to the end of this Learning Byte. We talked about what Junos Node Slicing was, and we demonstrated how to deploy and do a little bit of monitoring and configuration with the GNFs. So as always, thanks for watching.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community. From forums to social media, join the discussion.